I was told, one of my first auditions ever, I was told that I didn't get the director really liked me, but I didn't get the part because I didn't have the Hollywood look. And that's something that I've always found very interesting. And that
At one point, Bella Ramsey was positioned to become one of Hollywood's brightest new faces. Her early breakout role as Lyanna Mormont in Game of Thrones impressed many with its confidence and power. Critics hailed her performance, fans celebrated her delivery, and the media built a narrative around a young actress destined for greatness. But the same industry that lifted her up would later begin to quietly and methodically pull her back down. The fall wasn't instant. It was slow, calculated, and impossible to ignore, and now the same studios and fans who once championed Bella are the ones moving forward without her.
I'm sorry. That was acting. That's what that was. I really hope her career is pretty much over. I'd be thrilled to see that. I can't imagine. I mean, Christian.
We just had to not like each other for a bit.
You had to not like me, which came easy.
Because Ellie still looks and acts like a 14-year-old from season 1, even though she's supposed to be 19.
It all started with one casting decision. When HBO announced Bella Ramsey would be playing Ellie in The Last of Us, the internet reaction was immediate and sharply divided. While some offered cautious optimism, others were skeptical. Fans of the original video game franchise questioned whether Bella embodied the character physically or emotionally. The conversation spiraled quickly. While HBO pushed forward with the adaptation, those early doubts didn't disappear. They grew louder with each episode and ultimately became the foundation for a deep rift between fans and the show. Instead of bridging that gap, Bella's portrayal further divided audiences. Her version of Ellie, emotional, intense, and outspoken, clashed with the subtle complexity of the game's original. The energy just didn't match, and longtime fans felt like the character had been lost in translation. What was meant to be a modern take felt forced to many. For Bella, this might have been an attempt to bring her own voice into the role. But in a franchise already cherished by millions, the room for experimentation was small, missteps were amplified, and Bella's choices became the target of growing frustration.
Joel, I think I found something.
Whoa!
What?
No, nothing. It's just your forehead seems bigger than last season.
I think I found a way.
Like most people, I liked the first season. I thought they did a great job. Season 2, I was skeptical on them not recasting Ellie and keeping Bella Ramsey as Ellie because it's supposed to take place 5 years into the future, but obviously Bella Ramsey in real life was not going to age that much in, the 2 years it took between seasons. So in the show, Ellie still looks exactly the same, but is supposed to be 5 years older. Also, Ellie still acts exactly the same. For some reason, they made the decision for The Last of Us Season 2 to make Ellie dumb, to the point where she even says that she's stupid. Why? That just kind of betrays the character.
Impression at all, or is it pretty much the same?
Well, the noise is the same. I've not got any more noises in my back pocket. The new infected are pretty terrifying. They're so smart, and they haven't really got a noise. That's the whole point of them. They're silent and terrifying.
Ooh, give us a little silent and terrifying.
Yes, maybe we can prop it open with something and you can slide.
Whoa! Oh my god, what?
Is it getting bigger?
Stop it.
No, seriously, what's with that?
It's fine, Joel.
Does it hurt?
Joel, please. You're making me self-conscious.
I'm sorry, it's just a little bit startling.
Normal head, Joel. Can we just get back to the door things?
It's planetary.
Leave it.
It's gonna have its own area code soon.
As criticism mounted, Bella didn't choose the traditional path of silence or humility. She responded publicly, speaking in interviews about how fans needed to grow with her version of the character. While that might have worked in some franchises, it backfired here. Gamers and fans of The Last of Us weren't looking for a redefinition of Ellie. They wanted a faithful adaptation. Bella's responses were seen not as bold, but as dismissive. The pushback only grew. Season 2 of The Last of Us confirmed what many had feared. The show had lost momentum. Viewership dropped dramatically, with the finale pulling in less than half of the audience from Season 1. Critics began using words like inconsistent and misaligned to describe the episodes. And while no reviews pointed directly at Bella by name, the implication was clear. This version of Ellie wasn't working. Fans didn't connect, and neither did the broader audience. In the background, things were unraveling further. Rumors began to surface that Bella Ramsey had not been HBO's top choice to play Ellie. The name Caitlin Dever was repeatedly brought up by fans, insiders, and leaked reports. The internet took that and ran with it. Comparison videos, side-by-side voice clips, and mock trailers flooded YouTube. A new narrative formed, one in which Bella was the backup, the second best choice who only got the role because someone else said no. It didn't matter whether it was true, public perception had already taken the reins. What followed was one of the most dramatic fan splits in recent memory. Team Bella and Team Deaver memes began circulating. Bella's defenders tried to fight back, but the tide was against them. Reddit threads, TikTok commentaries, and fan-made edits made it clear the majority no longer supported her as Ellie. And when fandoms turn, they don't just stop cheering, they rewrite the entire story. Meanwhile, HBO was beginning to pivot. Promotional material began highlighting Pedro Pascal instead of Bella. Interviews focused on the ensemble cast rather than Ellie. Magazine covers shifted away from the show entirely. Slowly but surely, Bella was being pulled out of the spotlight. It was subtle, but unmistakable. The showrunners never made an official statement, but their actions spoke volumes. Then came the parodies. The Simpsons, South Park, and Family Guy all took turns mocking Bella's version of Ellie. These weren't just harmless jokes, they were targeted, biting criticisms of her performance, her public persona, and the controversy surrounding her role. The clips went viral, spawning millions of views and endless reaction videos. In a matter of weeks, Bella had gone from a leading actress to a comedy target.
Hey, tell me this. Have you picked Pedro's brain about being in Gladiator? Say that again. He's being cast in the sequel.
The internet's response was swift. Fan pages that once supported Bella stopped posting. Reddit forums changed tone. YouTube creators who had previously supported her released breakdowns titled "What Went Wrong with Bella Ramsey" and "The Fall of Ellie." The support was evaporating quickly. Bella's social media activity slowed to a crawl. Public appearances dwindled. The silence was telling. Behind the scenes, HBO faced another dilemma: how to move forward with The Last of Us without creating further division. Executives began exploring ways to digitally adapt Ellie's character for future projects without needing Bella's likeness. AI-generated imagery, alternate animation styles, and even spin-offs without Ellie were considered. One leak even suggested HBO was testing character models based on the game version of Ellie, specifically avoiding any visual resemblance to Bella. It was a quiet yet firm signal. Brand partnerships followed the trend. Products featuring Bella's image were pulled, new merchandise lines excluded her completely, marketing shifted toward the broader world of The Last of Us without naming the central character. It wasn't just about letting Bella go, it was about rewriting the narrative so she had never been the focus at all. As this unfolded, Bella's previous statements began to resurface. Past social media posts, interviews, and public comments were brought back into the spotlight. Opinions she had shared, once praised as bold, were now labeled divisive. Commentators from across the spectrum began citing her as a cautionary tale, not because she was outspoken, but because she lacked the awareness to separate her platform from the product she was representing. More troubling for Bella was the fact that studios began to take note. Casting agents reportedly flagged her name as a potential PR liability, not because of anything illegal or dangerous, but because her involvement stirred division. Hollywood thrives on buzz, but not the kind that divides fans and alienates sponsors. Bella was becoming the one name no executive wanted to see on a casting shortlist. Even interviews began excluding her. Late-night shows that once featured her stopped inviting her. Industry panels left her off guest lists. Her fellow actors continued rising, booking new projects, and making headlines. Bella was left behind, watching as the momentum she once had slipped further away. While she had once been heralded as a new kind of leading lady, bold, outspoken, and fearless, she was now boxed in by the same qualities that made her unique. In a world that demands consistency, clarity, and relatability, Bella's approach felt more like rebellion than evolution, and in doing so, she isolated the very people she needed most, her audience. HBO's final signal came in the form of a press release. Without fanfare, without tribute, they announced that The Last of Us Season 3 was on indefinite hold. The statement didn't mention Bella once, it didn't thank her, didn't reference Ellie, and didn't clarify future plans. It was cold, brief, and unmistakably final. The chapter had ended, not with drama, but with quiet dismissal. And yet Bella never addressed the situation directly. No farewell message, no reflection, no public statement. Her accounts remained largely inactive. The silence only added to the mystery. Fans were left wondering, was she being told to stay quiet, or had she simply accepted that the industry had made its decision? In the weeks that followed, industry insiders began speculating on whether Bella would be recast in upcoming projects. None were confirmed. Some sources claimed she was no longer in discussions with major studios. Others suggested she had been unofficially blacklisted, not in the harsh, dramatic sense, but in the quiet way Hollywood operates when a name becomes too complicated to handle. Her IMDb page stood still. Projects once rumored to be in development with her name attached quietly removed references. Agents declined comment. Publicists offered vague responses, and fans, they had moved on. Other actresses rose, new characters captured the spotlight. Bella Ramsey's name faded into the background, a shadow of a moment that once felt like the start of a long career. And that's the tragedy here. It wasn't a lack of talent. Bella had skills, but she was placed into a situation that demanded connection with a fiercely loyal audience, and she never truly found that connection. Instead, she tried to redefine it, and in doing so, broke it. Her story now serves as a case study in modern Hollywood, not just for casting directors, but for young actors navigating fame in the age of viral trends and fan-led narratives. It's a reminder that respect for the audience, consistency in messaging, and humility in success matter more than ever. Bella Ramsey had the spotlight. She had the backing of a massive network. She had an iconic role, and she had a legion of viewers waiting to be impressed. But when it came time to deliver, not just on screen, but in presence, in tone, in engagement, she came up short. Hollywood moved on, so did the fans, and now Bella is left with a difficult truth. The road back isn't impossible, but it is uphill, and it begins not with a role, not with a statement, but with reflection. Whether she takes that road remains to be seen. As time passed, the reality of Bella Ramsey's situation became clearer. She wasn't just in a slump, she was effectively shelved. The silence from both her and the industry grew heavier, and with every passing month, the sense of closure became more final. It was as though Hollywood had closed the book on her, and no one was rushing to reopen it. No announcements, no development deals, not even the usual festival appearances that up-and-coming actors often use to rebuild their brand. She'd gone from front page to footnote all in the span of just a few years. Meanwhile, entertainment circles were having very different conversations, ones that used Bella's story as a warning. Producer panels at conferences began referencing the Ramsey effect when discussing audience alignment. Marketing experts broke down how backlash spreads when casting feels disconnected from fan expectations. In internal studio memos, Bella's name came up not as talent to watch, but as a case study in how one performance can derail an entire franchise's momentum. It wasn't malicious, it was methodical, and for Bella, it was inescapable. At the same time, fans had begun to revise their memories of her earlier work, where once her performance as Lyanna Mormont in Game of Thrones was praised for its intensity, now the narrative shifted. Critics started describing her screen time as overhyped and too reliant on one-liners. Online forums that used to celebrate her now questioned whether the acclaim was ever truly earned or simply inflated because of the show's popularity. The pattern was familiar. Public perception rarely stands still. It either grows or turns, and in Bella's case, it was turning fast. As new young stars entered the scene, the contrast became even sharper. Actresses who navigated fan pressure with grace, who delivered strong performances while maintaining relatability, quickly rose through the ranks. They didn't challenge audiences, they connected with them. They didn't polarize, they united. Casting directors began looking for the anti-Ramsey mold, approachable, grounded, flexible. Whether fair or not, Bella had become the benchmark of what not to do in a high-profile role. The media, which had once extended olive branches in the form of fluff pieces and what's next profiles, had gone quiet too. There were no invitations for interviews, no streaming roundtables, no panel invites. Even podcast hosts, always hungry for behind-the-scenes insight, weren't knocking. The entertainment world had simply moved on. Bella was no longer part of the conversation, not because she did something egregious, but because she no longer fit what the audience wanted to see. Even educational institutions began referencing the fallout. In acting schools and screenwriting seminars, Bella's performance in The Last of Us became a recurring example of tone mismatch. In marketing classes, her public comments were dissected as lessons in brand misalignment. Professors explained how fan bases expect not only great performances, but also respect for the original material. And when actors veer too far from that, the audience isn't forgiving. Internally, it was rumored that Bella's team had attempted to course correct. Whispers from PR circles said they were pitching her for smaller, independent roles that might rebuild her credibility, but every attempt reportedly hit the same wall. No one wanted the controversy. Indie films feared she'd bring unwanted attention. Streaming platforms questioned her ability to draw an audience. Even charitable organizations, once willing to collaborate with rising stars, quietly chose other names. Bella had become a risky association. That risk extended into merchandising and licensing. Projects that once planned to include her likeness in board games, collectible cards, and apparel pulled back. Some companies even reprinted previous merchandise to remove her entirely. The brand erosion was complete. She wasn't just being phased out of future content, she was being erased from past content as well. All of it happened without lawsuits, protests, or headlines. It was all subtle and all intentional. What made things even harder for Bella was the emergence of new platforms that gave fans greater influence. Viewers could now directly impact casting decisions through petitions, social media campaigns, and even live feedback on platforms like TikTok and YouTube. In this new landscape, fan disapproval had real consequences. Studios didn't want to gamble on someone whose approval rating was in the red. Bella's name, once associated with buzz, was now a signal of potential failure. There were moments when Bella attempted subtle re-entry. A few cryptic posts on social media, a brief appearance at a low-profile event, but the reception was lukewarm at best and at worst combative. Trolls flooded the comments, former fans expressed disappointment, and the media barely noticed. These attempts at a comeback didn't ignite sympathy, they reignited old arguments. Each appearance only reminded people of the controversy she had become. In contrast, The Last of Us franchise continued to thrive without her. Game remasters sold millions. New DLC content was released. And when a new animated project was announced, Ellie's character looked nothing like Bella. She wasn't even listed in the press release. The character had moved on. The franchise had evolved. And Bella, once the face of a billion-dollar brand, was nowhere to be seen. Perhaps the most surreal twist came when an AI-generated version of Ellie was introduced in promotional shorts. The voice was new, the look was faithful to the game, and the fan reaction was overwhelmingly positive. It was the final confirmation. Not only had the show moved on, but the fans had fully accepted a future where Bella's version of Ellie no longer existed. In interviews with insiders, former colleagues danced around her name. Some described casting challenges or lessons learned. Others praised the rest of the cast while omitting her entirely. It was clear that even within the production world, bringing up Bella had become uncomfortable. She was no longer part of the inner circle. The energy had shifted. The momentum was gone. And yet, despite all this, there was no dramatic fall from grace, no scandal, no incident that broke the news cycle. Bella's career didn't collapse in a fire. It faded like a show after its final episode. Quiet, slow, inevitable. For some, that's even more tragic, because it means the industry didn't cancel her in rage. It forgot her in apathy. Some diehard supporters still held out hope. They argued that a comeback was possible, that Bella just needed the right project. But in today's entertainment world, timing is everything. And the moment for redemption had passed. Other names filled the roles she once might have landed. Other faces graced the magazine covers. The spotlight she once commanded had been handed to someone else, and she wasn't getting it back. In retrospect, Bella Ramsey's story will be told as a modern parable, not just about acting, but about tone, image, and audience trust. She walked into a franchise that fans deeply cared about. She took on a role with layers of emotional history, and rather than respecting that legacy, she tried to reshape it into something different. That choice cost her more than just a job. It cost her the goodwill of the people who could have been her greatest allies. Today, if you search her name, the results are mixed. Fewer casting rumors, more retrospectives, videos titled "What Happened to Bella Ramsey" dominate the feed. No studio attachments, no development updates, just silence. The kind of silence that tells you the story has already ended, even if no one said the words out loud. But perhaps the final chapter isn't a dramatic return or a shocking twist. Maybe the real ending is this: a reminder that even in a world full of second chances, not everyone gets one. And those who do must tread carefully because the audience is watching. They remember and they decide. Bella Ramsey once stood at the edge of stardom. All the pieces were in place. But through a mix of misalignment, missed opportunities, and misreading the room, she let it slip away. And Hollywood doesn't wait.